It was a dark Saturday morning, and the rain fell hard on the city. Michael, a young man of 25, held his resume tight in his hand. Today was the most important day of his life. He had a job interview that could change his future. Michael had been unemployed for 6 long months. His savings were gone, and rent was already late. This interview was his last chance to prove himself. He whispered, "Please, let me make it on time." The streets were wet, and cars splashed water as they passed. Michael ran as fast as he could, his shoes soaked with mud. The company was across town, and the clock was ticking. Every second mattered now. But then, something stopped him in his tracks. On the sidewalk, under the heavy rain, an old man slipped. His umbrella broke, and his grocery bag fell to the ground. He struggled to get up, his hands trembling. Michael froze for a moment. The old man groaned softly, clearly in pain. His bread was soaked, apples rolling into the street. Nobody else was around, only Michael saw him. His heart raced. If he helped, he might miss the interview. If he ignored the man, he could still be on time. It was a cruel choice. The rain kept pouring, hitting Michael's face. The old man's eyes looked desperate, searching for kindness. Michael gripped his resume tighter, torn between duty and compassion. What should I do? He thought. He imagined arriving at the office late and being rejected. He saw his landlord demanding rent he could not pay. He felt the heavy weight of his own problems. But then he looked again at the man in pain. Michael sighed deeply and ran toward him. He lifted the old man slowly, helping him stand. "Are you okay, sir?" he asked, voice shaking. The old man nodded weakly. "Thank you, young man," the old man whispered. "I thought nobody would stop." His groceries were ruined, scattered everywhere. Michael bent down to pick them up. The clock in Michael's mind was screaming. Every minute lost could cost him his future. But the man's weak smile made him stay longer. He couldn't just walk away. When the man finally stood straight, he patted Michael's arm. "You have a good heart," he said. Michael forced a smile but felt panic inside. He had to leave immediately. Michael sprinted through the streets again. His hair and clothes were soaked, his resume nearly destroyed. The city felt like an endless maze. Would he still make it in time? He reached the building, chest burning from the run. The receptionist looked at him, surprised by his state. "I'm here for the interview," he gasped. She checked her list slowly. "You're late," she said firmly. Michael's heart sank. His chance was gone. But then, a voice came from the hallway. "Let him in." Michael turned and froze. It was the old man from the street, now dressed in a dry suit, standing tall and calm. He was the company's director. The director smiled gently. "I wanted to see your choice when no one was watching. Many people chase success but forget humanity. You did not." Michael stood speechless, water dripping from his hair. The director continued, "This company needs people like you." He reached out his hand for a handshake. Michael's eyes filled with tears. The interview was short, almost unnecessary. Michael had already passed the real test in the rain. Sometimes destiny comes disguised as a choice, and kindness opens doors no resume can. Michael sat in the director's office, still trembling. His resume was wet, the ink almost gone. Yet the director barely looked at the paper. He looked straight into Michael's eyes. In this company, the director began slowly. We don't just hire skills, we hire values. A resume shows knowledge, but actions show character. And today, you showed me who you are. Michael nodded, still unsure if this was real. The rain outside kept tapping against the window. It felt like the whole city had paused for this moment. His heart beat louder than the storm. The director leaned back in his chair. I once stood where you are, he confessed. Years ago, I was tested the same way. That's why I never forgot the lesson. Michael's eyes widened. You mean, someone tested you too? He asked. The director smiled knowingly. Yes, kindness is the greatest exam in life. The rain began to soften, as if listening. Michael felt a strange peace fill the room. All his fear of failure faded away. Something greater was happening here. You will start on Monday, the director said. This company needs people who can put others first. That's the kind of leadership we believe in. And you proved it without knowing. Michael's throat tightened, his voice breaking. Thank you, sir. I don't know what to say. The director stood and shook his hand firmly. Just keep being who you are. When Michael left the office, the rain had stopped. The streets glistened under the weak sunlight. It felt like the city had washed itself clean. Hope returned to his heart. As he walked, he remembered the old man's weak smile. He realized every choice has hidden consequences. Helping had seemed like a loss at first, but in truth, it was his greatest victory. That night, Michael returned home with new energy. The room still looked poor, rent still unpaid. But his soul was rich with gratitude. He had earned more than a job, he earned dignity. The following days passed with a new light. Michael prepared carefully for his first day. He bought a cheap but clean shirt and tie. His reflection in the mirror gave him courage. On Monday morning, he walked confidently to the company. The receptionist, who once doubted him, smiled now. Michael felt like he truly belonged there. The rain test had given him a new identity. The director introduced him to the team warmly. This is Michael, he said. He passed a test no one saw but me, and I trust him completely. Some colleagues looked curious, others impressed. Michael only smiled humbly, not explaining further. He knew the story wasn't about glory. It was about choosing what's right. Weeks passed, and Michael's work shone. He was careful, respectful, and full of ideas. The director often used him as an example. Remember, he told others, character builds success. One evening, Michael walked again in the rain. This time, he carried an umbrella. He saw another person slip on the wet sidewalk. Without hesitation, he rushed to help. As he lifted the stranger, he realized something. Helping had become his instinct now. Kindness was no longer a choice. It was part of who he was. Years later, Michael grew within the company. He became a leader, admired by many. His story of the rain was often retold. It inspired others to act with compassion. And whenever he hired new employees, Michael looked beyond resumes and skills. He searched for kindness, for humanity, because that was the true test of character. The rain of that Saturday morning never left his memory. It was not a storm, it was destiny disguised. The old man had been more than a stranger. He was the key that unlocked Michael's future. The rain of that Saturday morning never left his memory. It was not just a storm, it was fate in disguise. The old man was more than a stranger. He was the key that opened up Michael's future.